Which weapon is best in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2? My. That is an interesting question. I don't know that there is a specific. Well, there's two different ways to answer this. One is the role play answer. How do you want to role play your version of Henry? And then there's the like completionist perfectionist version, which is going to say that use every weapon in the game because they all have their unique uses. But the reality is that for most players, you're not going to have the time to go full completionist mode and level up every single weapon in the game because it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to level up any of the given weapons that you can find in the game, and there are a lot, and there's a lot of associated skills, and it takes a lot of time to level all of those up. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about how I'm playing my character, and maybe that'll help influence you on how you can potentially play your character in terms of which weapons are the best in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. So understand this is my opinion. I am not someone who is the know-it-all. There are lots of different people who have lots of different opinions on this, and some people are going to have stats to show you. So if you're someone who really wants to get into the meta of the game, it'd be like, the mace is the best for these reasons, or the axe is the best for these reasons, or the pole arm is the best for these reasons, and you're gonna, go into, how long does it take to swing, and how much damage you're doing per this, and what's better versus armored opponents versus what's better versus whatever. Yeah, you can get into that nitty gritty stuff if you want to. So,
That's a good one.
let's talk about my Henry. So, I like to think of my Henry as a jack of all trades. So, if you look at how I have chosen to equip my character, I have a long sword, I have a long bow, and I have a mace, which I don't really use that often. We can actually go into my player's stats here, and we can look at my combat skills, and you'll notice that I have primarily focused on swords. I've done a tiny bit of heavy weapons, and I've actually done more unarmed than I have heavy weapons, and I've done a little bit of bowmanship. But by far, the most weapons that I use are related to the swords tree. I started off using a short sword, and I think it was a hunting sword and a shield until I finally got a long sword. And once I got the long sword, I've used the long sword since then. But that's because in my mind, I'm kind of working towards a Robin Hood build. I'm not there yet. When I say Robin Hood build, maybe it would be better to say like an Aragorn build. I like the idea of having someone who is good with the longsword, also good with the bow. And maybe if I need to, I can use like a mace if it's situational, but I've used it like 3 times, and only if I've gone up against an opponent that was just like so overwhelmingly difficult, like with a shield or heavy armor or something. I've been like, gosh darn it, I'm having a hard time with the shield. Let's just hit him over the head a couple times with a mace. So um, every weapon in this game does sort of have its own pros and cons. So swords, as it says here, the biggest disadvantage, it's going to tell you here in the description, the biggest disadvantage of swords is that they're ineffective against heavily armored foes. And that can be a challenge. Now, thankfully, I haven't had to deal with heavily armored foes too often, but you do come across them. Now, you can get around that by having lots of different perks and using combos and master strike and things of that nature. Heavy weapons are things like maces. And it says here, as an example, heavy weapons are clubs, maces, axes, and warhammers, and they are very good against armored opponents and opponents with shields. It says here, however, they offer little defense, which is why it's better to pair them with a shield. Then there's pole arms, which I honestly can never picture myself using a pole arm ever. I just don't like pole arms. These are all long weapons such as spears, halberds, and pole axes and glaives. Great penetrating power and significant reach. I'm not a big fan. It says here they are effective when used in inexpensive. It says effective in large numbers, even in the hands of experienced fighters. This is how little I use pole arms because I don't actually know that much about them. So not a big fan of those. And marksmanship, which is any of the ranged weapons. I prefer the longbow. Now, they did add crossbows in this game. There's the hand crossbow, which has a relatively short-ish crank time. and then or draw time, and then there's the heavy crossbow, which has a double crank, and it takes like 10 seconds to load, and I don't foresee myself ever using one of those at all. I do like the bow, like the regular old bow, like you could use it the first game, because it's pretty efficient. We can actually go in here. I don't want to get in trouble for like shooting it at somebody, but if I can like, boom, it's pretty quick. And I've been slowly leveling this up. So again, for me, because I primarily focus on a roleplay build, and again, I am sort of working my way towards a Robin Hood type or Aragorn type build. I actually would prefer to use less heavy armor and rely more on like leather armor and chain, but I haven't gotten my warfare and defense high enough to feel like I can reliably survive in that way. So I've still been using like some heavy armor that I've found along the way. But long term, I think for my own personal, and again, this is me. I'm a role player, so I really like to role play my characters. So for me, the best weapon in the game for me is the longsword. I love the look and the feel of the longsword. I love how it acts in combat. I like the reach of the longsword. It is ineffective against heavy armored combat. It's not ineffective. It's just not as effective as say a pole arm or a mace. I haven't had really. I think there's like two encounters in the game where I have like been like, all right, I'm gonna just switch over to the mace, and it was mostly because we were on a stream, and I had faced off against an opponent that was feeling a little too difficult for me at the level I was at with my skill. So rather than waiting until I had a higher skill in sword or more perks or whatever, I just pulled out a mace and like wailed on the guy until I broke his shield or whatever, and went from there. Quick commercial break, everyone, to celebrate and give thanks to all of these amazing people who keep me on the air full time. Really appreciate the support. All you got to do is join as a member. You get access to private videos. You can also do super thanks on any upload or super chats and stickers on any live stream or premiere you see. And beyond that, don't forget we're multi-streaming over on Twitch now, so you can support over there as well. Thanks so much to everybody. Let's get back to the video at hand. I could see myself eventually working towards like a warhammer and a shield if I wanted to, but I don't really like the idea of using a shield. I'm not a big fan of the shield, and it's just not how I want to play my character. I like the agility and movement of being sort of light on my feet with the long sword and having the bow and be able to move around the battlefield. And again, sneak through the brushes with my sneak. You'll notice I also have, if we go over to my skills, oops. If we go over to my skills here, like my stealth is up at 10, my survival is 14. So I've been sort of slowly working on leveling up my stealth and my survival stuff so that I could be sort of that outdoorsy woodsman type character who's light on his feet, good with a bow, while also good with the sword. And now that I'm level 15 with the sword, I feel like I'm starting to get good enough with the sword that I can start focusing a little more on the bow. So one of the things that I'm actively getting ready to do this week is start to go out and participate in the archery competitions to level up my archery and my marksmanship so that I can start to get better with bow and get some more of the perks in the marksman line. So again, if you want to get into the meta of what is like the best weapon in the game, obviously you can go by what they say. You can also look at some of the other people on the internet and on YouTube who have created these guides about like the perfect type of weapon against this type of armor, against that type of armor. Or you can do it like me and play your version of Henry, however you want to roleplay your Henry. Some people want to be the knight in shining armor with, full plate mail and a shield and a warhammer. Other people want to do a stealth build with just daggers and like no combat if they can avoid it. And other people like to be pure ranged with the crossbow. Other people want to do the pole arm. Like I said, I'm a big fan of the long sword and the longbow. It feels good for me. I'm working my way towards getting less and less plate armor now that I have survivability, and I'm really interested to see where this is going to go long term. So if you want to see how this turns out for me, don't forget to follow along. I do daily streams on YouTube and Twitch at around 6 a.m. Central Time every single day. I'm creating a bunch of guides around Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and of course I play a ton of games. There's like over 7,300 videos as of this recording on the channel, so hopefully you'll check out all the other games I played in the past and the games we're playing in the future. Until next time, everybody, stay safe and happy gaming.